Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. And today I'm joined by Max Liao, and we're gonna talk about learning games because Max, got this RPG Digest series every Sunday that you should watch. I assume most of you do watch, and so he's used to do deep dive into different game, different systems. So I thought it would be interesting to have like this, and it's something I like to do as well. I like learning new games, and I do those how-to video on my channel that you might have seen. So I think it'd be interesting to compare notes on how to approach when you try to learn a new game, a new system. Thank you, Max, for joining me. And for those who don't know, today is Max Liao birthday. Happy birthday, Max.
The big 5-0.
Yeah, I have to
Yeah.
get there somewhere, sometime.
So now it's they say it's all downhill from here, but I am going to buck that trend. I've got a long time left in me, much to some people's chagrin, and we're gonna have some fun up
Man,
until
I
at
thought it
least
was
my
all,
80s.
I thought it was all downhill from 35.
Well, 50 is the new 35. That's my
right.
story, and I'm sticking to it.
So, Max, now you are on Sunday. You're gonna start talking about the Corellius, but that's a
Mhm.
game you already know somewhat, right?
Well, as I'm rereading it, there are things I've forgotten, yes. But yes, I generally know the system. I know how it plays out. I know the background of it and so forth. Getting some of the nuances or remembering some of the nuances is, and for me, being kind of a pedantic person, and I try not to be too much, but I really am. I like things to be correct, even in the nuances. I'm rereading it just to make sure I
Mhm.
get it right. And
Well,
thank you to
which
everybody in
is
chat.
yeah, everybody in chat saying happy birthday. So yeah. Uh, so you're relearning it. You want to have things right. I think that's the right thing to do. I want to ask you, like, just first before like we go anything deeper, like, what draw you into a game? Like, what makes you like well, is there like a difference between the game you want to play, the game that you want to cover on the channel? Do you sometimes consider like, well, this is gonna be a good game that's gonna interest people, or is just like, do you just cover the games that interest you?
Generally, we cover the games that interest us, or I'll even go want to learn. So, for example, the game that I didn't have much interest in, but after reading it, it's like, I'd actually like to play this. I don't want to run it, but I want to play it. It's like Mutant Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoyed the way the 2D20 system worked with that. Yeah, I have quibbles. Anybody who watched those videos know that I don't like the Doom, or I forget what it's called, Dark Symmetry. Um, exactly how it works, but that's fine. That's just a quibble. I think it would be fun to play. I think it'd be fun to play with a good game master. So learning the 2D20 system absolutely was something that I'm glad that I did that I didn't know beforehand. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm definitely, so one of the things, if you've been on my Discord, I'm definitely a spirit of the law over the letter of the law type person. That right off the bat. So a game that has too many specific rules that makes it look like a war game, I'm going to be much less interested in that game. That doesn't mean I won't cover it or I won't read it, but like if it's like, hey, this game's like Pathfinder, I'm like, no. But at the same time, I'm interested. The only thing I'm really not interested when it comes to a game is I don't like current day, modern setting type stuff. Like I live this world. I'm not against people who do like it. I don't know why. Anytime you say you don't like something, people think you slapped them in the face. But I'm not into like modern setting type games. I want a bit of fantasy, and by fantasy I mean imagination, science fiction, with super laser beams or whatever, or fantasy with magic, something like that that gives it a little bit of an imaginative push.
What about like those modern day setting like Bright, where like it's modern day but with fantasy, or like even, or if you go like, oh, it's modern day but there's a lot of supernatural stuff, does that cut it for you, or just like, nah, it's too close to home, I'm gonna
I'm
skip
not
to
into
that?
the Call of Cthulhu's. I'm not into, again, I love people that play those games, and I think those games are great. Keep making them, but they're not for me. They're just, I would rather have a laser rifle or a fireball, so to speak. And to be fair, me saying that, if we're playing like an old school Dungeons and Dragons type game, I have no problem playing the fighter because I can use enough imagination. But I want to visualize the stuff going around me with weird, creepy things on that side, with a dude in a robe over here, doing the stuff and having lightning bolts coming out, whatever. I enjoy the fantastic elements of it, even if I'm playing the quote unquote boring class.
Yeah, but because that extend more than just like the modern world, because you also don't like necessarily like historical accurate, like if there's no
Well,
fantasy and
historically, I
stuff.
mean, come on, there's no magic in the world. Sorry for some of the folks out there, but there's no magic in the world. Okay, you're not gonna read a history. I mean, if you say historically accurate and you're talking Heracles, or Hercules, however you want to pronounce it, that's myth and legend. So yeah, I'd be into that.
No, I'm talking like let's say we do like a Roman Empire, and it's just you're just in the Roman Empire. There's nothing that didn't
Yeah,
exist in the story.
I think those are better suited to war games myself. That's again my opinion. There's somebody was talking about a game on Friday. Was it Lex Arcana?
Yep.
Now that had more
Mages,
fantastic elements to it. Yeah, Mages Musings was talking about that. So it did have a little bit of interest for me. But there you go, Mages Musings. Yeah, he was talking about that. But all told, I don't know if that's something that I'd want to sit in for a long-term campaign. But then again, I can be surprised. And that's one of the things about playing a new game is I have become surprised. Games that I shouldn't like. Champions. I don't read comic books. I don't like superheroes. I think they're weird. Why are you wearing spandex or your underwear outside the side of your pants? Like, it's just, superheroes just have never done it for me, even as a child. I'm not into them. I enjoy the Champions game.
Yeah. And you were as a player in there, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't run it, but I played Champions a couple times.
Because what makes you the difference between like a game you would like to play and a game you would like to run? Because I also have those games. There's game like that's a game I would play. I wouldn't run it. I wouldn't be good at running it. Like is that something like that for you as well?
Yeah. First things first, system matters. Yeah. I mean, I'll even say the system matters for playing, but not nearly as much. System matters, and I don't mean that I have to know it because I can learn a system, but I have to like it. And right now, I mean, systems. Yeah, I'd run anything old school D&D. Of course, I don't have any alcohol here, but we'll say it anyway. I'll run Earth Dawn.
A bit early, but it's your birthday, so
yeah. Well, it's my birthday. There we go. No, that was coffee, by the way. I would run Palladium. Well, I mean, I have run Palladium. For me, it's After the Bomb. Heathen Dog does the Rift stuff. What else would I? Oh, Free League. I would run the Year Zero. And when I say Free League, I'm talking specifically Year Zero engine stuff. So, I mean, there are different ones out there. I want to try running Tristat at some point, just because I think it's neat, and I've never run it before. But I haven't had the opportunity to do that. But I mean, really, it depends. Oh, Star Wars D6.
Yeah.
That's another. I love the D6 system. So, I mean, these things are popping in my head. I'm trying to think about them. I'm also looking behind me, like, what would I play? What would I run on that list? I'd say the majority of the games there at some point I would run, but there are a few that no, like I'm not interested. It's not my style of game to present, but I don't mind being a participant in it. And then, of course, there are some games like, no, I mean, hey, Max, we've been best friends since we were 8 years old. I'm going to run this game. Great. Have a nice time with that. I'm not playing. There are a couple of games like that.
Yeah. You say like system matters. How do you weight it differently? Like, does it like system matter more than like rules or system? Which one do you like when you approach a game? Like, I mean, like systems or lore. Which one do you which one do you care the most about? When you like, because like oftentimes we can see like a similar setting, sometimes with similar lore, with different rule set. And like you mentioned, like Star Wars D6, and Star Wars is a good example of that. There's countless, almost, and it's not countless, but there's many games, Star Wars game, with different systems. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are good for something you think, some of them are bad for other. So at some point, like, the system does matter. But then you also have like, and that because now you're doing like this year you did the year of Palladium, and now you're doing like the year almost of a free league engine. So there's also a system with many settings.
That's a very good question.
You sell on a
I think it's really a combination of the two. So Star Wars, the thing about Star Wars for me, let's just start with that one, is that it's an IP. And you know this, but for folks out there who might not, I don't generally like IP-based games. People get too nuanced, too pedantic about where something should be or where it shouldn't be. Don't, and I get like that too, so I get it. Star Wars is so vast and so diverse that it's one of those that, if you just want to run a Corsac merchant game, you can do that. That might not look like any of the movies, but you can do it. But on the other side of that, if you're doing an original trilogy style game, you cannot go wrong with Star Wars D6. It's damn near perfect. Like, from my experience, the Star Wars D6 system matches up with the original trilogy Star Wars more than any game or setting or anything I have behind me. It's just weird how it just matches up so well. I don't think it does so well for prequel type stuff. but I would still prefer to play the Star Wars D6 system. Now, that might be because I was exposed to it first. I mean, I probably have some of that, first girlfriend syndrome going on, where it's like, well, it's the first way I played it. Rifts is another example. I can't stand Savage Worlds Rifts, but I know a lot of people who were exposed to that first. And this is no knock on Savage Worlds.
Mhm.
Savage Worlds is a good system, but Rifts doesn't feel the same, and that is so important to me. Now, it might not be important to you, but it is important to me. It just does not feel the same without the quirkiness of the Palladium system. Just doesn't. Earthdawn, the game that I'm most known for. Drink. The Earthdawn system itself actually does quite well in the Savage World system, but there's also a Pathfinder version of it, which no. Pathfinder cannot cover the weird idiosyncrasies of Earthdawn in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Savage Worlds does a better job of it, but I'd still say that you play it in the right.
There's also like a Savage World version of Pathfinder.
Yeah, that's just weird.
now the whole thing is getting a bit weird. It's getting all messed up.
Well, again, because some people just want to have the information. I just want to play in Galarian. That's it. I just want to be, but I don't like the Pathfinder rules. Again, I find that weird, but you know what? There's a lot of things in gaming that I do that people find weird. So it is what it is. For me, I to answer your question without providing 75 examples, is I think there's just a balance between the two, because I can take bad lore and put it in a decent system. But I'm trying to think, like, if there's a game that I'd run that has bad lore. For me, again, I shouldn't have to say that, but I'm going to. For me, if there's a game that has bad lore, I mean, like White Wolf, I wouldn't run any of the. I'd play in them, but I wouldn't run any of the White Wolf games.
Even when you play a bit, like you ripped off. Like it was Ethan Dog running for you, right? And they ripped off a bit part of the lore, like taking all the...
So the main thing he took out was the goth nonsense, the emo, like, oh, woe is me. And it's like, he took that out. That was really the only thing that he did truly differently, is the world wasn't like, oh, we're all wearing black and pale faces.
Yeah. And somebody say it seemed you favored the D6, and that might look like it because you talked a lot about Star Wars D6 now, and now you're doing the Rear Zero, which is a D6 dice pool, but you're also one of those weirdos that don't care about specialty dice.
Right. Well, I like the specialty dice to be mimicked by normal dice as well, but yeah, you're right. Especially dice don't bother me. They add a little interest to the game, because remember, there is a game side of this as well, and they add some interest to the game. I the Fantasy Flight stuff, for example, I don't like, because you can't get those dice anymore.
Yeah, the Fantasy Flight stuff also, like, not only you can get those dice, I found like every fucking roll became a chore because you had to decrypt the results of the dice, and it gave you like two information, and I don't know like how people like that game, to be honest, but.
A coworker of mine is running it. He loves it, and I get it. I don't know. I would have to learn it. I'm not going to bust the balls of that game because I have to learn it. I mean, there's a game. One of the games I want to learn that's on my, we'll call it, bucket list to actually cover on one of our live streams. This is the Genesis system. I don't have any of the books, but I want to cover the Genesis system just because I want to see what all the hubbub was about.
Yeah. So I guess like that comes back to my original question, like about like what draws you to a game. You probably like me. You just like reading a rule manual in as a hobby in itself, and you like learning a new system. Am I right with that?
I'm trying to think, because now is different than in the past, if that makes sense. What I do now is more tailored towards my live streams and information that I can use for my live stream. So with that regard, 100%, you're right. I'm trying to think about how we did it. So for me, I probably learned the most games in the early 90s. That's when I was stationed in New Mexico, I was going to War Games West. I had all these people around me that were gamer nerds, even at that time. And so every week, all the times, we were playing different things. And I think it was just, if the game master made it sound interesting and he could get through me critiquing everything, because it's not like this just started yesterday on my live stream or whatever. I've been like this my life. Then yeah, I would try it. And very rarely did I ever just say no, because even if it was like, okay, I got this game, we're all going to be vampires, but we're vampires that wear pink raincoats because that wards off the ultraviolet rays of the sun, and we roll D100s to resolve all actions. You have to roll a 98 or higher. What? Oh, okay, I'll give it a try. Just maybe there's something I'm missing in that works out. So I'd give it a try. But in order to like a game, to really want to get into it, it had to look interesting. Cover art was important for me back in the day. Not overall art, but it's like Harn and Torg had some great cover art. Like, ooh, I want to play that. And I finally got a chance to do that. The players of the game were important. I wanted to play Traveler Classic. Like I have these. Oh, they're behind me now. But I have these Traveler Classic books, and some people have heard this. I wanted to join the Traveler group because it seemed interesting to me. Wow, just fly around in space, do merchant stuff, solve missions, or whatever it happens to be, kind of in a more mundane but sci-fi setting. That sounds interesting to me. Let's do that. But because I wasn't like an MIT grad, knowing that, a K-class star puts out, how many joules of energy or whatever, it's like, I can't play in your game because like, I don't come in here with that. Did you know that Isaac Asimov said that? I don't care,
Yeah. So I guess like I ask you between like lore and mechanics, but I guess like the culture of the game also has an impact, because like you mentioned as well, like White Wolf has its own culture, and
Yeah.
of course you can run it without diving into it. Traveler has its own culture. The OSR has its own culture.
Yeah.
To some extent, like, of course it's not uniform everywhere, but so I guess that probably
I'm not trying to give you a non-answer. I'm trying to figure it out for myself while we're sitting here, because I think, like, for me, like, what is, like, if I see a game on a bookshelf, what's going to make me pull it off the bookshelf and grab it? Well, first thing is if I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, oh, this looks like Cyberpunk, but it's got refrigerator art. Probably not that good. Oh, look, it uses a single D6 system, no dice pool, no exploding die. That seems kind of boring. That's Rysis. Okay, let's let's go to another one, or I could mimic that game with Rysis, for example.
Yep.
There are lots of factors like that get me, but the thing is, I try to have enough of an imagination, enough of an interest where it's not just D&D. I mean, Earth Dawn captured me the second I picked. It wasn't even a book yet. It was a pamphlet. Captured me right off the bat because of what it did with the step system. Wait. Modifiers don't go to what your target number is, but actually affects the dice you roll. Well, I like rolling dice. Somebody was at Mage's Musing said, oh, it looks like Max like D6s. No, I like dice pools. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand the Shadowrun dice pool where you're shaking like, a sack full of dice. That could be a little much, but I like dice pools. I like the clickety-clack math rocks. I like rolling them out there and going, okay, did that work? Did that work? I'm seeing a lot of sixes in my face, but are there enough of them? There is an excitement to that as well. So I definitely, D20 is boring. Does it function? Absolutely. Is if you just want to continue on, move on, have game resolution, roll that D20, have fun. But I personally find that a little boring. I find the game aspect to be partially exciting as well. So Earth Dawn, just like, yes, I love this, and then there are some other aspects to it as well.
So what got you to with Earth Dawn is really the mechanics, I guess, because now when you just like express your memory of it, that's what you're drawn to directly, and
that's ultimately what's going to keep me in the game. Yes, that's not going to help me make the decision or it's not going to be the deciding factor as to whether I play it or not, unless I know that system and I know I don't like it, e.g. D&D 3.5 or Pathfinder. But if it's but ultimately, yeah, like some people are like, well, then why do you like Palladium? Because Palladium is quirky enough to be interesting. And I say that without like, oh, it's got all these problems. No, it doesn't have all the problems you think it does. Unfortunately, the books are written weirdly, but I like the biopoint system for making mutant animals. That the character creation process for that game was interesting to me, and it made interesting characters. The rolling system, sure, it's a D20 for combat, and I think that some of the things are a little explosive. And I don't mean dice, but in the combat. But it's meant to be cinematic. Okay, I got that now. It's meant to be cinematic. So the dice system works towards a cinematic style of play. It works. Oh, but now we're rolling skills, and that's percentile. And I've heard so many people, well, that's confusing. What's so confusing about rolling a 20 to attack somebody and percentile for trying to perform something? I don't get it. But people complain about that. Personally, I like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's confusing. I don't think it adds much unless you really need the granularity for skill. Like, oh, it's not going to be like 25%, it's 23%. If that matter, maybe your game is too granular. But
that would be Battlelords of the 23rd century.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you talked about that. That seemed like a bit of a nightmare to run.
For the people who love it and know the rules, that is definitely a game that I would say, look, you can't go into it blind and think you're going to be doing well. You have to learn those rules. Like, again, we say that about a lot of games. We even talked about last night at the Basic Expert Show, rules is written, yada, yada. it is the most crunchy game I'm aware of. Now people put like some Phoenix Command game is possibly more crunchy, maybe that seemed more crunchy in hit locations, not necessarily in actual combat. Battlers will give you those +1s, those +3s, those +17s, where you're doing some real math in there. Palladium doesn't do that. Palladium is pretty much 10, 20, 30, maybe a 25 or something like that. So you could theoretically do everything on a D20, but again, there's this visualization that happens with me. I'm in combat. This is a one action maneuver. I have 4 actions per round. I roll a D20. This is a skill. This takes time for me to do. It's going to take me at least 1 full round, if not a minute, an hour, a day, whatever, to complete this. I'm rolling percentile dice. There's something about that separation that works for me.
Yeah, I'm usually like one for like homogenization a lot,
Mhm.
but in that case, like they have like some conceptual difference between the two, so I give it a pass, I guess. It's not the worst thing I've seen. Pierre was asking earlier, like, what do you think of the Alien Union thing? It's free league. Is that a good thing or not? And I kind of know where you stand on that. But
So I think Free League is presenting Alien very well. I love the cinematic mode of Alien, and with the upcoming expansion that's about to come out, I'm probably going to love campaign mode as well. Here's my problem with it. I already have a science fiction game. It's the one I'm starting to cover this week called Coriolis. And it's like it's competing against itself. I understand that Free League wants the IP, and let's be fair, Alien's probably outselling Coriolis 10-1 because people recognize that they want to do it, and Free League did it so well. And that's disturbing. At least it uses the Year Zero engine. Let me add that in there. At least Alien uses the Year Zero engine. Some of these newer IPs that they're putting out don't use the Year Zero engine. It's frustrating. But I don't know. I look. I like it. I have to say that I like it. I know I'm hemming and hawing here because I'm trying to find a reason to complain about it. I do like. Oh, thank you. I do like it. I just think that they're shooting themselves in the foot and they're pushing Coriolis to the back burner, and it saddens me because Coriolis has different enough mechanics where those games aren't fully compatible. They're compatible enough, but they're not fully compatible, and we'll cover that this week coming up.
Yeah. But the draw of the IP, it's just like having the big name on your cover. That plays a lot. Let's not kid ourselves.
I've been here. People have been kind of pushing me in the throat again recently over a couple of things that I've said, and I stand by what I said. I understand that Free League, WotC, Paizo, insert your company, or Palladium are businesses. People are like, you have to understand it's a business. They're going to do these dumb things. Well, this is also a hobby, and there is a balance that, to me, that a business should have. I understand the whole idea of a business is make money, make money, make money, make money. Everything else be damned. I understand that, but that is not the appropriate business for a hobby.
Or at least it used to be that. Now it can.
Well, yeah, especially if you look at WotC and
you've seen like WotC sales number for D&D, like book like Radiant Citadel like doesn't sell.
Fair.
Like 11,000 copy. But yet they keep like putting out trash.
Well, yeah, because again, in the very modern culture, it's all about activism. That's why our second core value for #RPGate is entertainment over activism. The thing is, and look, let me use my favorite edition of Dungeons and Dragons, second edition AD&D. We had all the splat books, and we all know that they're money grabs. Everyone, and they didn't even play test them because what's her name, Williams wouldn't even let them play test. So half of them aren't balanced, but who cares? Again, I don't worry about that whole balance nonsense. But we had the ability to say no. We just like, no, you can't be a Wemmick in the game. Ask me how I know, because I let somebody be a Wemmick in a game. No, you can't do this weird stuff. No, you are not going to be the one drow that can stand outside underneath the sun and not have any problems. We knew how to say no. You either bought the splat or you didn't. Apparently, I bought a lot of splat. They're great reference points for making adventures. They're a great idea to, as I like to say, get the brain juices flowing for what do I want to do next as the party goes forward to wherever. I can add something interesting in there from that. The Wizard's Handbook with the wizardly diseases, that was fun. So, but the point is, we could say no. The problem with things nowadays, with 5e being like this universal system, or with Free League going towards just IP-based games because it makes them money, is I feel that they alienate the original fans, and there's a huge fight out there that nobody cares about original. Nobody cares about the original Star Wars fans. Nobody cares about original old school D&D fans. Nobody cares, and it might be right. That might be right about that. But there's a reason that the word fan is short for fanatic. We get to complain. We get to say, we get to speak our mind. And if you don't understand that, you're the problem, not me. And yeah, I mean, I can't fault them on a business level for doing it, but my God, Coriolis, your company is named after one of the factions in Coriolis. Why are you not supporting it more?
No, I to be honest, like the Alien game, like, well, there's something in Coriolis like trying to draw me away. The Alien game is appealing to me because I like the movie. Like I'm one of those guys, like one of those, like, but
and the game system covers that well with the stress mechanic.
Yeah, and it's probably something that would be more interesting in the cinematic mode though, because I think like this horror is hard to maintain in a long campaign.
Sure.
And even in the movie and even in video game, you see that. Like you see horror video game, they always devolve into like action schlock. But because as long as when you get more familiar with the horror, it doesn't get horrifying anymore.
Right. Well, the first Alien can absolutely Alien, not Aliens movie can be done very well in the cinematic mode based on if you set it up yourself and give out the cards to the viewer, because that's how it's done. It's done by cards. You have a mission basically, and every person's trying to accomplish a mission. Some are synergistic, some are antagonistic, and it works like let's use Aliens, the second movie. Ripley wanted to wipe out all the aliens. Burke wanted to bring one back. That put them at odds. That could be a mission card for you. Obviously, Burke failed that one. Got close, but he failed. For a few people in chat who I know like the system, what you're going to find about Coriolis is Coriolis has a lot more similarities with the Modiphius 2D20 system than a lot of people see up front. Still the D6, it's still a dice pool, but it has some similarities to the D20 system with the darkness between the stars, similar to Doom.
Yeah, I can't wait for the to be honest, I don't know much about it, but this is a series you're gonna do. I'm definitely gonna be interested in. In case there's some people like maybe writing a rule book right now in the audience, what do you like in a rule book? So do you like what say like in terms of layout, in terms of presentation, the order, that thing, like that's a big pet peeve of mine. Like I hate when like they start with the character creation. Like, how do you stand up on that? Like, what do you like your games to be presented? What do you find make it easy for you to, I can just go to this book, learn the system really easy because the book fucking teach me right. What do you?
Hyperborea. That is the example everybody should use. Astonishing Swordsman, Sorcerer's Hyperborea, 2nd or 3rd edition. I didn't have 1st edition. Best laid out book. Now, some people say OSE. I won't argue with them. I just don't have OSE to lay it side by side. But for me, Jeffrey Talanian, the way him and whoever's editor was laid out Hyperborea, that's perfection. Unfortunately, you probably won't like that because it does start with character creation. But by the time you're done with character creation, you know everything you ever need to know, like the way the chapters are laid out.
But also, like Hyperborea, like is an OSR game, is really like based like D20. So in those games doesn't bother me as much because it's a system we're familiar with.
But you're familiar with it, but what if you're trying to give it to somebody else? And that's one of the things I think a lot of game designers forget, especially game designers with the smaller books, is they don't realize that you're not going to market it to somebody else if you don't have a lot of examples and explain what the intent is. Sure, you can market me Rules Cyclopedia, no problem. But I would prefer to market BECME to somebody who's never played. Max, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, but you know what BECME has in it? Examples and even a choose your own adventure based on those examples. Like it really is laid out well for a new person. And for me, I'm targeting the new person. My book is going to be a little bit thicker than it needs to be. Now, as far as that layout stuff goes, I don't have an issue with character creation being first or last, but that's because, again, I've been doing this for so long. I know what I'm looking when I'm opening the book. I know what I'm looking at right off the bat. For somebody new, I think you need a short, and I mean a very short, not a 30-page White Wolf, introduction to what the world is. Something that gets somebody's brain into the world. Then an overview of the game system, like a quick reference. And then from there, after that point, I don't care if it's character creation or if it's game rules. I mean, which one's putting the cart before the horse? Why would you have the rules before you have the character? But then again, why would you make a character before you know the rules? I've heard the arguments. I get it. I personally don't care. I can flip a coin. It does not matter to me.
No, but you said it. You said it right there as well. Like like some expose what the world or the setting of your book is, like do like this prologue, short, an overview of the rules. If you just get that, then you want to go in character creation, doesn't bother me because you gave me an overview of the rules. But I've seen like game, like they go straight into character creation. I have no idea how to make a fucking check. I don't know if it's the 100 system. I don't know if it's fucking the 1000 system. I don't know if it's dice pool. I don't know. And then like you just like, and you try to, because when I don't know if it's the same for you. You can tell me. When I read rules, I try to picture it in my mind, make a scenario in my mind, you know. But then if I just read like, oh, if in combat you can do this, this, that, you have like this power, like, but I don't know how the mechanics work at all. I cannot make a picture in my mind. I cannot.
So
like,
again,
you know,
for me, because I like physical books. So here's my Forbidden Lands book, for example. I like physical books. I don't mind doing things like this. I know people like PDFs and so forth. I don't like. Okay, I'm on this page now. I'm looking back. It's just because again, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. That just book flipping doesn't bother me. It might bother other people. This is why, you know, for me, I'm not stressed about which way it is. My biggest pet peeve when it comes to a rule book is when people write like they speak.
No,
that drives me batshit crazy. I hate that, but it's me. I'm putting my natural prose in here. No, a rule book is a technical manual. It is supposed to be clear, concise, consistent, and accurate. Leave the how you speak nonsense for the fluff section, which should not be integrated in the rule section. Rules should be stereo instructions, boring stereo instructions that you don't want to read. I hate to say it. Well, I don't want my book like that. I don't want to read a book like that. Well, then I don't know what the hell you're looking for, because that's what it should be. Clear, concise, consistent, accurate. I can look up the rule. Everything else, the fluff, we'll call
but
it,
also
should bring your imagination out.
Yeah. In what you say as well, like, you know, like the rules should be like stereo instruction. But if you do that also, like you say, oh, that's going to be boring to read. Yes, but it's going to be fast to read.
Yes.
It's not going to be as fun to read, but you're going to get it right away. And then when you look for rules, you're going to find it.
And you can always follow the rules up, which is one of the things I'm doing, is you can follow the rules up with examples. And there you go. Yeah. Now put your prose in those examples. But the actual rule itself, clear, concise, consistent, and accurate. And by consistent, yeah, I mean even spacing between bullets, you know, because that can have meaning to certain people. But the modern gamer, so much like, well, I can self-publish. I can't afford this. I can't do that. And I get it on one hand, because I'm going to be suffering through that myself, not having a full real editor. But using that as an excuse, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Well, you're wrong. You know, I won't play a game or buy a book that's done like that. You have to have a little bit of effort put into the proofreading and editing side as well, or don't even bother thinking I'm going to play your game or promoting your game.
Yeah, I got books sometimes that you look at it, you feel like they didn't even put like in a basic like spell check, you know, just like, and I'm not even like my native language, and I can tell. And so you mentioned like about the layout in Hyperborea, and I'm not very familiar with it. Like, do you want to explain like what's so good about it? What do you?
It walks you through here. Let me grab it. So nice cover also. I do have the leather ones as well for people who care. I was one of the cool Kickstarter backers. But just looking at the chapter, I'm not going to page through, but just looking at the chapter. So introduction, then it goes to character generation, which is just a generic, like, hey, what you do with character generation. Goes to your statistics, which are your ability scores. Then the classes, because once you have your ability scores, you pick your class. Then you go to your background, your equipment, if you have any sorcery. And then all of a sudden, then it's getting into the adventure, which is, how you do timekeeping and so forth. And then it goes into combat. 9 chapters for the entirety of this book, and it walks you through it step by step. When you pick your class at whatever portion of that, you just move on to the next step. It just walks you right through it. I wouldn't say it's concise, but it meets all the other ones, and it's concise in the fact that all the character classes are on 1 or 2 pages, and there's fluff mixed in there, but it needs to be for the classes. But when you're done with this, you're done, and you just move on to the next thing. You're not trying to fiddle. Okay, where's the next? Do I go back? Do I go forward? No, you just move on to the next one.
Yeah, because I don't like when I read a book, if I need to do a lot of page flipping. Sometimes I feel like, well, maybe this section should have been put ahead. Just like maybe it should have been organized a bit.
This is all forward progress. You start at page 1. And by the time, if you were to go start from page 1 and go to the end of this book, you will have created a character in a nice step-by-step format. You will know the rules for adventuring, and you will know the rules for combat, and you are ready to play the game.
Do you mind showing the book, opening a page? I just want an inside. See, I'm gonna put even you like how do I do that full screen?
Okay, I can't see, so like, hopefully that's yeah, it looks like that's on there. Do you want me to show a page with some art or?
No, that's what I want to see actually, because like I see like you have all little paragraph like split
What is
by
this?
section.
This is oh, these are spells. So
Yeah.
let's go to oh, that was a good page. I'll show a character also, but I want to go back to that weapon. Here you go. Here's a weapons page. I really like books that describe weapons because you'll find out how retarded people are, myself included, about did you know that a falchion actually has this and that? It's like, no, it doesn't.
Oh, let me see this one that you just wanted before.
Oh, the
Oh, I like the art.
The monk?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I wanted to see like those box at the bottom, like now it's well, we get out of the 2-column layout, because like the book is 2-column layout. Do you like that? What is that box? Is it just like some explanation? Is it like
So
so
in the game, there's a quick way of having your equipment. You can either buy your equipment gold piece by gold piece, or you just start with this starting pack, and that's that's the starting pack. Below that is effectively the THACO chart, or it's the combat matrix from first edition. So everything, when I say this, everything you need for your character at this point of the book, when you select this class, is given to you. This book, I don't know. Again, people with OSE might say differently, and that's fine. I just don't have the information. This book is laid out damn near to perfection.
Yeah. So is there something like do you like in a visual aspect when you read the book? Do you like when there's a lot of like those text box that are like clearly distinct? Maybe like all the fluff is gonna be into this box that is like on a scroll, like a parchment or stuff like that, and all the example is gonna be in this yellowish box or gonna be in this italicized or whatever. Is that something that say, you know what, this book I can find my way through it easy? That's a good way to do it.
I like the way Free League does it in like the Mutant Year Zero series. Gives all the rules, gives all the stuff, kind of gives a little background. But then what it will do is you could tell during play testing or people have complained about things, they'll make like an anecdote. All right, if the characters decide to do this, you can, or you can choose not to have this because of yada yada. Like they'll put like little anecdotes in there. I like that. So yes, I do like, as long as it's not all over the place for every reason possible, and as long as it's something I can ignore, like the core of the book should be the rules. I'm still going to read it anyway, but I shouldn't have to read the core rule book and then read this as well to get something that should have been in the core rules section. But
that was a problem I had with The Witcher as well. Like they put like some rules in margin text,
like important rules, like rules you needed.
Kind of, yes.
That's bad.
Yeah. What about like you mentioned like the anecdote in the Year Zero books? Do you like those like when you have like those the author like speaking you like sometimes like okay, because that's something I do when I write. I sometimes like if there's a rules that people can misunderstand, sometimes I'm gonna have like a text box that is clearly distinct. I say okay, here's why the rule is this way. And
I literally have a box that I'm writing in mine that says design author's notes. Yep. And then I put in specifically the intent of this is, or if you have any confusion with this, or whatever it happens to be. I do that throughout my book.
If those text books are written in a different style, like more closer, I wouldn't say like how you speak, because you should never write.
They're absolutely the way I speak.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But
because I want the tone of those notes to be separate from the pure technical writing.
Yeah, okay, because that's what I do. Like, I wouldn't say like it's how I speak. I try. It's cleaned up, but it's much more conversational.
Okay, that's more accurate. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we're in agreement like that. Do you like? Is there like a way that when sometimes like there's just too much art? Is that something that you've seen? Gets in the way, like say, like
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know that there have been some books that I've gone through. I wish I could remember. I mean, they're probably sitting right behind me too, where I was like, okay, calm down here. I'm getting like through. No, here we go. Oh man, people in chat, because I've seen what you've been typing, are going to get angry about this one. Coriolis and Alien. like my Coriolis book is not here. No, my Coriolis book is in the bathroom. Guess where I'm reading it? But let me grab the Alien book. I gotta pulling all my books out. Shelves are gonna fall in. So some people don't like the dark pages or whatever. I don't care, but that's a lot of white space that could be used for text.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying it has to be boring, just two column text constantly. I mean, you saw the Hyperborea stuff, but there is a lot of just not open area here. This book could be half the size.
But if you look at the rules encyclopedia, it's like, man, that's fucking dense.
Look at this. That's like what the now. The art is fantastic, so it doesn't crazily bother me. But it is one of those things where it's like, man, you could have saved a little money on that one. But I don't get too much into that. Look, art isn't one of those things that really cover art might to make me want to grab it off the shelf. But art, the game I love, EarthDawn, has the word. I don't know why people like Lubinstein's art. He's horrible, at least as a professional artist. Like, dude, I had high school friends that could draw so much better than him. So it wasn't the art that turned me on to EarthDawn. It was how I imagined the world in my head that turned me on to it. So art isn't something that actually I pay too much attention to. Like I was asked to kind of look at everything. So like they say for Titan Robotics, we had Sean and Kevin on from Palladium Books, and we looked at Titan Robotics. And one of the things I remarked about it is I loved how the art was laid out in the book. It's not a normal thing for me to look for, but they wanted us to look for everything. And so I looked at there, and I really did. I love the idea that there's grayscale art in there that was new. There was some old school long art put in there that's very indicative of Palladium. And then there's some very simplistic art put in there in little corner spots. And the way it was laid out was done amazingly well. So now, if none of that art was there, would I care? No, but I know that some people do care about art. Is it the best art in all of fantasy gaming? No, DeGenesis has that hands down. There's no game book out there ever designed that has better art than DeGenesis. I just wish they had more of it, but I'm sure that cost them a pretty penny. And I can show you guys that as well. But how many times do you hear us talking about playing DeGenesis?
Well, never.
Right. It's not that the game's bad. It's just it's a very niche game that you have to have the right type of mindset to play for. And yeah, but just because the art's good doesn't mean I'm going to play it, or just because the art's bad doesn't mean I won't play it.
Yeah. You think those games that try to do something kind of weird, like make it interesting because that's different, but then again make it like they kind of shoot themselves in the foot because, well, there's this fine line that you need to find by something that offers something different, on the other end something that people will actually want to play that's not going to be turned off. Like, there's some weird people that always will say, oh man, that's different, I'm interested in that, but most people are not like that.
I've never talked to anybody that knows DeGenesis to ask them why they don't play it, but I can tell you for me, this is why. It has nothing to do with the rule system. Well, it has nothing to do with the direct mechanics of the game. In fact, I kind of enjoy them. It's 3d6. If I remember correctly, a 4, 5, or 6 is a success, a 1, 2, or 3 is a fail. There you go.
Yeah.
It has to do with the fact of like character progression, and the clans are weird, man. Like one character progresses at, it's not even like a different XP rate. Like it's been a while since I've read it. Just know that the character progression is something that you're scratching your head on. Like, wait a minute. He's got like extra skills and extra rank. I'm still sitting here doing the same thing, but I was in all the adventures, but I got nothing. Oh wait, now all of a sudden I did get one. Now I'm like 3 times more powerful than him. It's like this weird bouncing around thing where you have to go in certain directions in order to make your progression work right. And it's like, is this a railroad game, or is this an open freeform game? Because it markets itself more as freeform, but it comes out, at least in the character progression, as more of a railroad game. Just be honest. I don't care about that. Just be honest about it. And I'm not saying that the developers lied or whatever, but it's somewhat confusing. The clans and the progression of your character is confusing, and that's what I don't like about it. Your mileage may vary, and you may find that to be the most interesting thing about the game, and that just adds so much to it. I won't fault you for that. And maybe if I played it, I wouldn't care. To be fair, I've not played it. I'm just saying, in my read-throughs of the 2 books for the game, that's my issue with it. The character progression side of it seems just weird. in nomine, GM James, in nomine, yeah, I have that sitting down here as well. We tried. I ran in nomine for a little bit in the 90s, and they were, by the time we were done, they were choking me. They're like, "We are never playing this game again. Go away."
I want to go back a bit to layout, because something you mentioned that just like make me thought of something from the Alien book. You said there's a lot of white space, but do you like when rules, like when there's an effort that is made to keep rules contained on a 2-page spread, so you don't have to
I
flip
don't
as
care.
much? You
I
don't
know a
care about
lot of
that?
people. A lot of people have heart. Like I've listened to authors or read authors. They're like, I made sure that everything I did fit, on this one page. And I'm not talking the entire rule book, but like the entirety of character creations on one page, the entirety of spaceship combats on a second. I don't care about that. I just want the rules to be clear, concise, consistent, and accurate. And then for me, rules should be a framework. I don't need you to resolve every little nuance and possibility that a character could come out. Looking at you, Battlelords of the 23rd century. But I also need more than, hey, in space combat, if you think it's hard, add one. I want a little more than that. Like how did you, as the author, determine the difference between passive sensors and active sensors? Give me that kind of framework without making me read 400 pages of rules.
I see. And outside of just reading the manual, when you try to learn a new game, let's say like you got a group together, you say we're gonna play this game. How do you go about it? Do you have like something that you do other than just reading the manual, like some tricks you have to do? Do you have to roll a bunch of characters yourself? Do you have to do some kind of like test combat on your own before you get to the group?
So you're talking brand new to the game. Okay, so brand new to a game, yes. I will do all of that. I will make multiple characters. That's so that I can help other players, especially new players, make characters and say, hey, this is what I noticed. Or it's one of the reasons I know that I don't use psionics in After the Bomb, because I made about 70 characters, I think it was. I don't know, maybe 100 characters, whatever, before I ever ran the game. And I found that every character that had psionics made me want to just throw the book against the wall. Other people love them. Don't get me wrong. Again, this is for me. It's my style of game. Coriolis, well, I shouldn't use Coriolis. Forbidden Lands. When I ran a couple one-shots of Forbidden Lands, yeah, I make flashcards of the rules.
Oh,
seriously,
yeah.
and I'll go through the flashcards so that I can better understand. Now, as time goes on, obviously I don't need those. As time goes on, we're playing the game and we got the rules down and we come across situations over and over again. But I try to be as versed with the rules as possible before I run the game. And it's making characters one. What was the other? You said something else, and I think I did that. Read the rule book.
Test combat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Test combat. In fact, there's already a video out there for Coriolis, if anybody wants to watch it on Legitimate channel, of test combat in Coriolis. And I had people complain about that video saying, this seems completely complicated. You know why? Because I threw everything plus the kitchen sink as far as rules go in that one combat. I made sure I threw a grenade. I made sure I had armor. I made sure I ran. I made sure I prayed to the icons. I made sure that everything, all in one combat. You might not necessarily have that all in one combat, but I tried to make it interesting enough where it's, imagine the Star Wars Episode 4, the stormtroopers are coming through the wall of, I forget the name of the ship, but it's right at the beginning of it when they're coming through the ship to go capture Princess Leia, right?
Yeah.
I did that scenario, but using Coriolis.
Yeah. Forgot the name of the ship either. It's a Korean Corvette.
Yeah. 5, whatever.
Yeah, 4.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we have like nerds yell at us.
Yeah. Right.
So flashcard, is that something that you would like to be integrated? Like, what if a book would have like section at the end, like where here's the rules again, but very bullet point, very like no explanation, just like, well, you roll that, like kind of integrate your flashcard that you would make into the book, so you can just like go.
Well, I'd still do the flashcards, because even when I take certification exams, I write my own flashcards because I want to write them in a way that helps me learn the best. But whether it's at the back of the book or a game, I am one of those people who uses a game master screen. Yes, I roll behind a screen. Screw you people who think that players should see the dice. I don't believe in that. I don't cheat. I just don't believe in it. I'm the game master. Either trust me or get off my table. Now, with that said, yeah, I mean, I don't care either way, but that is definitely something that I would like to see, like a quick reference guide for the most common charts or rules and so forth. I think AD&D Second Edition may have done that. So one of the games I played did that quite well. Yeah, but the other thing that I do is I imagine a campaign in my head, and this is something I don't think is unique to me, but when I talk to people, like, oh, that's a good idea, is when I'm reading it for the first time, I imagine what type of campaign that I could do with this. Now, knowing the games I have behind me, I go with campaign first, and then, okay, which game do I think will represent it the best? But if it's a new game, like, okay, I start opening it up, and I start saying, okay, what kind of game could I run with it? Stars Without Number, for example, is absolutely amazing for a Star Trek style game where you're just exploring world to world to world. I think that works fantastic. I'm sure Traveler would as well, but like you said, told you my history of Traveler. I like the way that that Stars Without Number puts together the sector system and making your own worlds, and it's detailed enough to pretty much put whatever you want out there, but loose, or it's not so wordy that you have to have 7 manuals just to get through it. You get the basics, and from there you embellish upon that as you need. To me, that's the framework, and Stars Without Number does that wonderfully.
Yeah. Do you feel that because now you also like the stream and you say like now this is a big part of like what choose you to cover a game or to get into a game or not, like to read it, to learn a game, and what you do basically like is teaching about the game. Do you feel like this helps you master like a game in a way, or like or learn it yourself? Because like I used to teach a lot of people like when I was in the corporate world, and we always like show them new tools and stuff like that we develop, and we always like then ask them to show the tool to somebody else, because we had this idea of like look like watch one, do one, teach one. Then you're gonna
we
look at
call that
somebody
validation where I work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, validation, validate the process, validate, in this case, validate the rules. Yeah.
And do you think in the RPG the same thing? Like when you, because it forces you to organize your idea, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to do that. So, before we called it session 0, before, our session 0 or maybe session 0.7, because sometimes we'd sit down a couple times before we really got deeply into the campaign. We would all sit down so that everybody knew how to play the system. The first time I was ever exposed to, trying to think of a game. Well, actually, the first time I was exposed to AD&D Second Edition, they sat down with me and said, okay, this is how these work. Now, I had played D&D before, but it had been years before. Right now, at this point, I was in a Battletech and Palladium mindset. So they're explaining, like, this is how initiative works. This is how a combat round works. Let's do a couple. This is how spell casting works. Don't forget about your casting time. And, they went through the process with me. And now, if something happens to you, you'll have to make a saving throw. The saving throw goes in order. So, usually it tells in the book, but if in doubt, you start at the top: paralyzation, poison, death, magic, yada, yada, yada. And at the end, you'll finally have spell. They would go through that process with me. And I've tried to always do that. There's been a couple times I wasn't able to do that. Example, that Forbidden Lands one shot, simply because that group was interesting. But when I got there, we did a couple of quick rolls real quickly just to show them how the dice work, because you have the gear dice, the base dice, and the skill dice. But once that was done, we got into it and we just played it. They liked it. So, but yes, I do try, and I tried, if there's somebody I know that's experienced with the game, I try to ask the person about lessons learned, not how to run the game. I know that might sound weird, but I don't give a damn how you run your game. I'm gonna run my game the way I want to. But lessons learned are very important. Like, hey, be careful when somebody has this ability, or be careful if you try to do this to the party, because it might not look as strong as it is, but this thing could absolutely wipe out a party in 5 seconds, or whatever. Like, hey, what I've found in my games to be really fun is give them a broken spaceship, because it allows them to do, technical rolls, and they'll really appreciate the failures on the technical rolls on the 1 or 2 times they'll get that, whatever. What you see what I'm saying? Like, the getting those lessons learned, I'm all about that.
Yeah. Do you what do you think about like getting into a game? Like, I assume you're probably somebody that tried to know the rules like fairly deeply before you run a game. Some people like just say, yeah, let's learn it together. When some situations come up, we'll look. Is that something that really bothers you if you're in a group like that? Do you like say, I'm gonna check out?
No, well, it depends. If it's friends of mine, no, because I don't mind learning a game together with my friends, and especially since obviously I have an opinion or two. I can say this game sucks, I'm not going to play it, but I'm here to help you, learn, something like that, or vice versa. Like, dude, where's this game been all my life? I can't wait. When do we get to start playing? So no, I don't have a problem with that at all. On the flip side, would I accept a random phone call to go to a random gaming store to help somebody learn a game? No.
Yeah. Is there a system that you say like that, or a system or setting or games you could say like, this sounds really cool, I'd like to learn it, but you fucking got the manual and gave up on it because you're like, man, I cannot go through that.
Battlers 23rd century. It's
You went through it in the end because you made
okay, so I played it. Well, I played it to learn it.
Mhm.
So the guy who ran it was really good. I forget his name. I think it was Steve. And this is in the late 90s, and he did a good job of running it. And yes, it is a guilty pleasure of mine. I do try to find a Battlelords of the 23rd Century game at a convention when I go for a one-shot. The problem is when I'm there, it's usually the other people that are like, okay, I know I'm rolling percentile dice. Okay, you got a plus 15 for this, you got a minus 2 for this, but remember, you're a Scissor X, so you also get a plus 35 here. It's like, keep throwing those numbers at me, buddy, and tell me what I need. Okay, and then I'll roll. Because I like the game conceptually, but as far as the rules go, it gets way too deep into the minutia. It's got a comedic aspect to it that I kind of like, dark comedy aspect to it that is underlying the game that unfortunately 7th edition kind of pulled away a little bit, which made the game even worse. Yeah, there's just something about the game. It's a guilty pleasure game, but not one I would ever run. And if somebody would be like, dude, I'm going to run a 2-year campaign, at least that's my plan, I'd be like, yeah, probably not. Yeah, I can't say I'd be fully interested in that. And it's because that after reading the rules, if you want to play a tactical science fiction game that gets into the weeds about armor type, bullet types, ranges, everything to do with, because the guy who originally wrote the game, the first 6 editions, was I think he was Canadian Special Forces. Like he had combat experience, and he put that in the game in a science fiction aspect. If you want that, it's this close to being a board game without actually being a board game. It's all theater of the mind. There are no maps or grids or anything for it. But if you want that, it's there for you. It's too granular for me.
It's like, but that's like a system failure, right? That's like the system is clunky.
I wouldn't call it a failure because it does what it accomplishes, what it sets out to do.
Yeah, I mean, a failure for you, but in the sense that it didn't reach you, like the system in itself. Is there like something like, is it like well explained at least in the book?
Yes.
As
oh
far
yeah,
as,
yeah. At least, again, in the first few editions, there's some issues with the 7th edition. Look, you guys know my pronoun issue. I'm not going to get into that. But when you have a rule, and I wish I would have marked the page that this was on. I think it's in our video, in one of our videos covering the game. Okay, when they shoot them, they get a +5 to their roll. It's like, who are the theys in this case? You're trying so hard to stay away from pronouns that it made the rules confusing. In the original game, you would have known exactly, the first 6 edition, you'd known exactly what was going on. And yes, the editions of Battlelords have splat you might not want to use. It's like AD&D 2nd edition in that regard. The core book is all you need. There are some splat books that can get a little weird, like the FOT. People who know the game will know what I'm talking about. Those who don't know the game don't need to know. But it's for me, it's too granular. It does what it's meant to do. I like the dark humor of it. I like the races of it. But I would look, if you told me, actually there is, but if you were to tell me, hey, there's a Savage Worlds version of Battlelords, I'd probably be more interested in playing that. And there is a Savage Worlds version of Battlelords, but I wouldn't play it because I don't like the current developer of the game. I stop at 6th edition.
Yeah. Is that better? I was asking the question because like for me, like it's Burning Wheel, Burning Wheel certainly has problem, like the system is a bit clunky, but the way it is presented make it much worse.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like,
so I thought people like DM James absolutely love Burning Wheel. At least he did at one point. He was talking about it a lot.
There's some good idea, there's some good concept in it, but the way that the book is written and the way the book is presented make it like so much more hermetics with the rules, and specific terms that he use that are like weird and foreign. You already have a complex game, a complex system, and now you're
my god, you just gave me my answer.
Go ahead.
I have a better answer than Battlelords, and you just made me think of it by saying that. Shard. Just so people know. Can I get it? This game. What does it have going for it? This has got some of the best anthropomorphic art I've ever seen in a book. Oh, that's not it. There we go. It's all pencil, but
yeah. Oh, yeah,
I'm not going to show off every page, but it's got, and you guys know I like anthropomorphic animal games, and I was like, oh yeah, this book turns me off because it uses a lot of weird words, to let you know that you're in a fantasy setting, playing in a weird world, and so on and so forth. And I don't want to learn all those weird words.
Yeah.
Okay, speak English to me and let me play the game. You can use a weird word for somebody's name or for like, an island kingdom or something like that. But there are a lot of just weird words in this game that pulled me out of reading it. So I completely forgot about that until you said your comment a moment ago. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I've never played it. I didn't even get through the rules because again, I was done by the time that I don't remember what any of them are, but oh, here we go. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I can't even pronounce them. That's the thing, is I can't even pronounce them. Don't give me weird words in your game.
Yeah. Especially like I find it's even worse when they, like I said, like in Burning Wheel, like they use like weird word for like game mechanic, like it's not really weird, but they're gonna talk about like the obstacle instead of anything like target number or difficulty level, something that we understand, and then it makes like this one more step that you have to. What's an obstacle? Oh, it's a target number. Then just fucking say target number. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a big fight in my close group of friends over the word threshold, and some games will say like, hey, you got a threshold of 10.
Yeah.
And so that means, oh, I have to roll a 10 or higher. Well, in some games, that means you have to roll an 11 or higher, and they freak the hell out over it. It's like, shut up. Go. The book says threshold is something different. See, that's one of the things. A book with a glossary and definitions at the beginning, even if it doesn't meet your sensibilities for it, who cares? The book has defined it for you and how the book means it. And that's what you go by. I don't always agree with what the book says. And I'll say, oh, that's right, the book says this. If the book says that the threshold is the number you have to equal to or higher, that's what you do. Fuck off. Like, I get that type of pedantry drives me crazy. Just go with what the book says and go with the author's intent, go with the spirit of the game, but just use real words, words that we can understand.
Is that something that should be standardized? Like, should we roll above a target number or equal above a target number? Because like mechanically, like you could just like lower or raise all your target number by 1, and then like we could make all the thing like, but it can get annoying in some game.
Well, for me, so one of the things, so like let's use Palladium as an example. In most of Palladium's rules, you equal a target number or higher. So if for combat, for example, for short range or for melee combat, you roll a 5 or higher. So the target number is 5, right? Well, if you start talking armor rating, well, if somebody's got an armor rating of 12, well, now the target number becomes 13 because you have to roll 13 or higher, 12 or less. And I don't find it confusing, but what I've done in my Palladium homage is I've universalized that, and that the armor rating, it becomes the target number, so you never have to think about it. It's just like, okay, armor rating of 12 means the new target number is 12. Again, it's not hard. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but I like the clear, concise, consistent, and accurate, and I like that consistency.
I think that'd be like for me that'd be a big sin, because like it's too close, too like things that are different. We can like compartmentalize and think in our head like, oh, this is one thing, this is the other thing. Things that are very close and similar but slightly different, they get confusing like at some point. Like,
I can see that. I think I'm joking partially when I say this, but I think that's part of the gatekeeping of the hobby. So maybe I want some of that stuff in there. If you're not willing to learn the system, or if you're just gonna blow a gasket over something, using BattleTech. I've been talking a lot of BattleTech recently, and one of the things I used to do when I'd teach people how to play BattleTech is I'd make them have a dervish and a crusader. Let's go 2-on-2, because 1-on-1 can get pretty janky. Like we could have just a lucky hit end the game pretty quickly. So let's go 2-on-2, and I'm going to teach you how to play. And that way you can move something one way and another thing a different way. Yada yada. But a core component to BattleTech, and if you take it out, you are not playing within the spirit of BattleTech, is heat management. Or I build all my mechs not to have heat. Well, then you're not playing in the spirit of BattleTech. Is to have heat management. And if that person will play the game without bitching the entire time, oh my god, I got heat. Oh my god, I got. Great, you're in the club. Let's do this, because it meets the spirit of the game. So, the point with when it comes to like the rules that you're saying there, I think you have to play within the spirit of the game, and there's okay for there to be a little bit of nuance. There's okay for games to write their rules a little differently, so to speak. Like one person says threshold is equal to or above, the other person says you have to get above it. just define that in the beginning of your book. Play within the spirit of the game. The rules, and like the Palladium thing. It's no difficulty in the fact that, okay, he's got an arm rating of 12. That means you have to roll 13 or higher. He's got an arm rating of 16. You have to roll 17 or higher. There's no difficulty in that. But there is a lack of consistency, which, again, as a technical writer, I agree with you in the fact, hey, let's fix that going forward. But I'm not going to be like, well, that screws that game up. No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I want to be pedantic here for a second, like about the word threshold. L says the amount of processed grain, wheat grain you can fit in a container. Actually, like trash are thing that they used to put on the floor, like kind of the shaft of wheat they used to put to cover the floor on, and the threshold was this board at the bottom of the door that would prevent the trash from going out, that would hold the trash in. Something you have to step over.
So equal to without going over. So it's Price of Right rules. Got it.
Yeah, no, but it was literally something that you have to step over to get out, because the door doesn't go all the way down to the floor, because the floor is going to be covered in trash. Anyway, little like language just on there. You going back all the way to the beginning of the stream, you mentioned about like when you're writing, say like, what if it's the first game that you pick up? Is that something that you think we should consider still when writing games? Like what if this indie RPG that's very specific, is the first RPG of somebody? Is that something that happened? Is it like, because there's a debate about that, like, should we still include the what is an RPG section? Should we take the time to how to roll, like dedicate how to roll a die and how to read the dice result? Can we make, when you write indie RPG, can we assume that the people coming to it have some assumption, like people are gonna join the hobby? No.
Always write that stuff in the book, unless your target audience is specifically experienced players, which I can see for an indie creator who wants to keep page count down. Like, look, I'm not writing this for brand new people. I'm writing this as my take on whatever, on D&D, for people who already know the system. If that's what you're doing, fine. But no, again, it's just one of those kind of idiosyncrasies of writing. Right toward your audience. Well, I know for me, I want the audience to potentially, even if it's only 1 out of 1,000, that one person, if I write to that one person to say, thank you for that beginning, because now I understand how the game's meant to be run, and I've enjoyed entering this hobby. Even if it's like, I don't play your game anymore, I play somebody else's, but it got me in, then that's a win. Always write it to include people who may not have access to other people, or may have never played one before, or secretly, I heard all my friends talking about this weird D&D thing. This looks like a D&D. Let me pull it down and look at it. This looks like it could be interesting. Oh, look, there's a how-to section right at the beginning. Like it doesn't hurt you to put that in there. If you're going to be, I don't want to call it elitist, but if you're going to be narrow-minded, nope, that sounds. I'm not trying to do this in a way that sounds like I'm bad-mouthing it. But if you're going to do it in a way that narrows down the focus of your audience, I think ultimately you're just hurting yourself. And nobody who's been in the hobby forever should care that there's a little introductory section in there with a glossary, what a D4 looks like, what is a role-playing game, those little things like that, because most of us skip over to like page 7 anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Do you read them all, or do you usually like skip them? And at what point also does it become like patronizing? I know what to read the dice. I know what I know that I'm supposed to look at the face on top of the D6.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't get so weird about it that it's like, put the die in your hand, roll on the table. When it stops, the number that's on the top, because I think by this point somebody's at least played a board game and knows how to read a die.
Are you gonna, like, to fill in character, take the pencil in your hand?
Yeah, right, exactly. No, but to say something like, hey, to play this game, the things you'll need are a set of dice, pencil, and notebook paper to write your character and notes on. That's great. That's great information, because that right there, because some people, if you're not using the official character sheet, you're not playing the game properly. No, screw that. You just need a notebook that has information. Now, as a game master, I get a little more pedantic than that, but that's my table. Ultimately, all you need to play the game is one person have the set of rules, have some dice that either you guys can share or you have on your own, a pencil and a notebook for taking notes, and have your character on it. Boom, there you go. You're ready to play. And I put a fifth one in there, your imagination. Because
that's something like I was talking about King Waspinator from Total Party Skill, because his system is a good system that he wrote, but his book is a bit cryptic and stuff like that, and he doesn't even provide a character sheet. and he doesn't do all this end holding. And I
So
talked to
he's
him about it.
definitely targeting people who already know how to
Yeah.
play.
And he say, and I'm targeting people like that are smarter. I like, my games are not for moron. That basically, don't want to put word in his mouth, but in a sense, I think that's what he meant. It's in a way, and he doesn't give any example, which I think arms his book. I don't think his book's the best written ever, but the system is decent when you can figure it out.
So
But
so
I do have a
let
video about Mix
a
Pro.
little example with that. Do you know? Because I don't think I've ever said this, or if I have, it's very rarely. Do you know what the first RPG product I ever owned was? Not played, but owned. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on a stream.
By in general.
For me, the first RPG product I owned.
No, I don't know.
It
I
was
don't have.
this. It was this FASA Star Trek role playing game box set.
Oh, that you
We
don't have
couldn't
anymore.
figure it out. I was I forget how old I was. It had to be before I was age 12 because that's when my dad lost visitation with me as a kid. And I didn't know what a role-playing game was. I didn't realize that it was a Dungeons and Dragons type game, even though I had played Dungeons and Dragons at this point. I didn't realize, it was a role-playing game. My dad had never done anything like that before ever in his life. We thought it was going to be some sort of tactical war game simulator or whatever. It wasn't. It was the role-playing game. And I wasn't allowed to take it home because I wasn't allowed to take anything that my dad bought me home to my, whatever, the parental stuff, right? So I didn't get a chance to read it more or bring it to a friend or anything. He couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out on my own. Like I said, I think I was like 10-ish years old. So yeah, now I don't even know. There may have been, this is how you play this game in that book. I don't know. But the point that I'm making is I actually remember that, like, wow, we bought this game somewhat on accident. Like I said, we thought it was something else, but look what I do now. Wouldn't that have been fantastic to have had that as one of my early games to start playing, and then playing that with my dad, possibly, who's deceased now? Like that would have been fantastic. So yeah, I think you should put that there. Now, Muktuk, I think his name. Yeah, Muktuk put Counterpoint, a niche system with limited appeal. Probably shouldn't waste page count, a real cost on explaining stuff to everyone. You're right. That's what I'm saying. If your target audience doesn't include new people, 100% agree with you on that. But yeah, so my point is, I think it doesn't hurt you to put it in there if your goal is to have potentially, because we know in most cases it's not going to be true. Most cases they're going to be people who are playing D&D or who saw their friends play D&D. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to come from another game. But on the off chance that you can get somebody that's brand new, why not put that in there? I don't have heartburn if you don't. I just don't see that there's.
But also, like, the world is not the same as it was in the 90s. Like, now the idea of like at some point, like, the concept of RPG was pretty new. Now, like, it's more spread out. I think everybody should have like an idea. Like, like, you wouldn't expect a board game book to explain what a board game is. Maybe when it was the first board game, you would, but
Yeah, but
now
most board games do give a synopsis. In this game, you move pieces around the board. You roll dice. You move pieces around the board to be the first one to get to the end or whatever happens to be.
Yeah, but that would come to the rules summary. Like when you say, like, oh, I have like in the beginning of your book, I have some quick explanation of the overview of the rules overview. I think that's
sure.
but,
I mean, you could put it there. I mean,
and also now we have the internet and stuff like that. I don't know. I think I'm to be honest on it, I'm like kind of like 50-50.
Yeah.
I think there's no sin in skipping it. I think if you want to include it, don't be generic about it. Like, because sometimes I'm gonna read those, and I'm expecting to get the view of the author, how he sees RPGs, what he thinks RPG are about. I think that's the way they should be used if you want to include them. If you don't do that, just fucking skip them. Just tell me, like, hey, it's a game where you play pretend but with rules. Like, we read that fucking 10,000 times.
So I agree with you, but I err on the other way. I would say, if in doubt, put it in the book. But but I'm not going to be mad at you if you don't put it in the book.
Yeah. What about including a character sheet at the end of the book? You think that's required, or
it's a tough one because I never use publisher character sheets. Like,
and nobody's gonna go to a Xerox machine to copy it nowadays. Like, you're just gonna fucking download it on the internet and print it.
I think I do like the idea of character sheets because they set an example of how a character sheet would look filled in and so forth. But like I said, for me, I almost maybe the Free League ones I would use because just the way that game is set up. It's pretty rules light. You don't need to worry about a lot of stuff. But like, I made my own D&D character sheets. I didn't use anything that was ever published by anybody else. I certainly don't use the Palladium character sheets because you'd have half a character. You know? So I think that they're good to have in the book, just to have something generic there for somebody to say this is what you'll want to have in front of you. But to be like, this is the official publication, you must use this character sheet because we're Games Workshop and you better paint your character sheet in 3 colors. No.
I'm being called on for calling them Xerox machine.
Hey, when we went to school, we had the type that you had to crank and then get the smear all over the paper.
Nice. We didn't have any of those stuff. We just copy by hand at school.
Yeah, well, he worked in a monastery, so they were scribing everything.
But you know, there's some game like to be honest, like character sheet, like some games are just gonna use a scrap paper and like write everything by hand still. And some, but if I play a game like Call of Cthulhu, for example, then yeah, I would like to have like an official character sheet because there's all this.
Because that's all the skills on there, yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, and the thing is when somebody does a character sheet, so let's say I was running a game and you're saying, hey, I'm just going to put my character in my notebook. I don't have a problem with that, except for I do have a couple of character rules that really make people angry, so we're not going to talk about them now. But one of them that I do say is like your character sheet needs to match to some degree the official one so that when I'm looking at your character sheet, I know where I'm looking. You know, don't write it out where you got your strength here, and then 3 pages later you got your dexterity, and then over here you got your wisdom sideways with some no. You put it in the same general format, but other than that, you know, hey, have fun with it.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you, because we're on the subject of like, oh, if somebody new to the hobby, like bring the book. Yes, I want to go back to that a bit. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's games that you say, great game, should absolutely not be your first RPG?
Should absolutely what?
Not be your first RPG.
Mm-mm.
Like not a game, like great game, not a game for beginners. No, you don't believe that this.
No, I for beginners, like again, if you were brand new, didn't know what you wanted to do, like I heard this role playing stuff. You guys are a great group of people to hang out with. You know, I want to join in the game. Well, first of all, if I had a game running, I'd say you're joining my game. If it was a game like, okay, we're in between games, I'd start asking you like, what is it you like? What is it you read? What do you do for entertainment? What type of entertainment do you like that you want to imagine in your head? And then I would go from there. It's like, oh man, you know, my favorite TV series of all time is Farscape. Then I'd say, go away, nobody likes you. No, but it would lead me towards, okay, so we're gonna play a little bit of space exploration game, probably with some internal drama, internal conflict, but not player versus player, so to speak. And okay, so now we could do Traveler, we could do Coriolis, we could do Star Wars, we could do, there are a lot of things. Do you like fantasy at all? That's the weirdos with pointed ears and swords that shoot lightning bolts. Yeah, I'm not into that. Okay, cool. We'll keep over sci-fi. Do you like your sci-fi to be very comic book superhero-ish, or do you like it to be kind of mundane? Maybe say like Star Trek. I know Star Trek can get a little superheroish, but you get what I'm saying. Like, do you want it over the top crazy, or do you want Stargate universe? And then, and finally, I'll find out what it is that you like. And I can't guarantee to do that 100%, but at least I now know, like, all right, you know what? I think what you said here is like, obviously I'm not going to run a Rifts game because that's too high powered for what you're looking for, but I'll see if the guys want to do let's see, what's the sci-fi game I have over here? I don't have sci-fi in that. So, I was going to say Paranoia. Yeah, we'll run some Paranoia for you, Yeah. But, I haven't played Mindjammer yet. I won't because it's a Fate game, but I haven't played Mindjammer yet, but I'd like to try that out. I think this might be a great opportunity for you to learn how to role play, and I can dig into that game and see if the group likes it.
But what if it's somebody that has a group of friends and one of them is going to be the GM? Okay. And and they come to you and they say, you know what, we got this game, like I'm thinking getting like the Genesis, and we want to try RPG. It's going to be the first thing we're going to jump into that.
Genesis? Holy Jesus. Yeah.
That's an example, like, would you tell them, yeah, you know what, if it's the first time running a game, maybe try something a little simpler, maybe try something a little more tropey, or
maybe it depends on the person. I don't like to take people away from games that they want to enjoy when it comes to that, simply because the game might be hard. I would caution them though. I'd be like, look, Pay attention to those clans and pay attention because the game system for Degenesis is, again, it's relatively simple. Difficulty number is just you might have to get 2 or 3 successes or whatever, in order to succeed at something, but it's just D6s. That's real easy. It's the character progression part of it that's wonky. So now it's a game where maybe people from the different clans don't necessarily get along either. So if you don't like PvP in your game, you might have hey, I'd caution you hey, you probably only want people from this clan or these 3 different clans, depending on what it is. You'll have to look into that as well. And then, then the characters might start becoming a little cookie cutter. But I would never tell somebody, no, don't start with the game you enjoy. I really like superheroes, and I heard of this Marvel superhero game from back in the day, and I've got a friend who said he's going to lend me the books. Well, maybe you should start with Mutants and Masterminds first. No, I would say start with Marvel superheroes because that's what you want to do, and it's an easier game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Somebody's Crapphone say first time DM should cut their teeth on Burning Wheel. Yeah, that's not gonna cut their teeth. That's gonna fucking break your teeth.
And well, the other thing is, sorry, go on.
So Nerdy Girls, another game for beginner GURPS. I think GURPS is just a game for nobody.
See, I don't know why everybody has the animosity towards GURPS, other than Steve Jackson Games being a piece of shit. Yeah. GURPS itself is not hard. GURPS is just 3d6. It's 2d6. I forget.
I don't know. For me, it lost a lot of its appeal from being generic.
Okay.
Which is what the system tried to be. But I like when rules inform the feeling of a game, the tone of the game. And when you try to do a game that's generic and universal, necessarily you have to sacrifice that.
No, I do agree with that, but I also think that there are enough splat books out there that help you, build vehicles, build magic into your game. I have the hero system more than GURPS. I guess but GURPS has even more. GURPS is not my favorite game ever, but there's a lot of people that have hatred towards it that I just don't get. That's too clunky. I never found that it to be that clunky either because we didn't look up every rule. That's my type of gamers. We didn't look up everything. Well, it says here. But there was a comment that I was looking at here. Where was it? Crap! I thought I saw a comment on here. I wanted to.
By who?
No. I don't remember what it is. So I'm not gonna.
And on the opposite end, is there games that you would consider great game to begin, but at some point you probably should move on to something else? I guess
5e.
That's a loaded question. Oh, all right. That's
5e is a training wheels game. If and I mean that one because everybody plays it, so it's a great way to get started.
Mm-hmm.
But 5e has no heart and no soul. It is a game system. Well, 3e is worse in terms of not having heart and soul, but 5e's heart and soul is corrupted and corroded, and it's all individualistic. Me. It's not set up it's not set up as it should be. But to get in, because you can always find people who play. And you can get some of those dumb ideas that you have that we all had at some point in our life. Get them out of the way right away. I consider that definitely a training wheels game. Start there. Other than that,
it teach you something wrong. You don't you think it give bad
yes, because I believe that games have tropes, and D&D 5e doesn't respect any tropes. It only respects your own individual take on whatever you want to be. It's a game for people who want to rationalize or have moral relativism, and not a game for people who want to be immersed in a different world. You can do that. Your game master can do that for you, but your game master has to actually do that. I mean, look at Dragonlance, for example. Dragonlance is its own setting. It has the phases of the moons for a reason. It has the Kender ability for a reason. And 5e found a way of incorporating that into everything by identifying with phases of the moon. Then what the hell's the point of the phases of the moon if you just identify with them? I know what the rules are. I read through them, but no, the moons affect you. You don't affect or choose what part of the moon to use. And that's one of the things. Now, could another game do that? Could even D&D 5e make its own weird setting that's not Dragonlance and do that? Would I have such heartburn? Probably not. But the point is settings have tropes. Games have tropes. 5e doesn't respect those tropes. It just says, do what you want. We'll give you this a little bit to start. Go do what you want. And no, I think that you're supposed to play within the tropes of the game. And if you homebrew it and make your own house rules, that's you and your business. But the game itself should have. And I don't think there are too many games out there. Even GURPS has its own tropes. Even Hero System has its own tropes and how you build stuff.
Mm-hmm. because like I was wondering about the giving like bad habits to player, because like it teaches them like that. It's a lot about the power fantasy and stuff like that. That sometimes they bring back in the and you know, I don't know, being like you can do whatever you want. Like I think I guess if it's a way to get people into lobby, but sometimes I almost like them to be contained there. People
Well,
that join.
no, I agree with you. Can you throw up a Guardian of the Runes comment that let Dragonbane one?
Yeah.
I think this is Dragonbane feels like a training wheels game. Even comes in a nice little box. Dragonbane, I have not finished reading the rules of it yet, but as somebody who's a huge fan, this is again Free League. What are you doing? It's like it's competing with itself. It's because Dragonbane is half Forbidden Lands with the push mechanics and so forth, and half D&D 5e. It's like it's trying to bridge the gap between Forbidden Lands and 5e. And so far, I'm generally liking what Dragonbane's putting out because, again, Free League knows how to maintain tropes, even if they're their own internal tropes. But yeah, I could see that being a training wheels game in a non-derogatory sense. I absolutely could see Dragonbane being a training wheels game to get people started.
Yeah.
Just don't play a duck.
You don't like the duck either? I thought you like duck.
No, I don't like that it's Grumpy Duck.
No.
Look, I like anthropomorphic animals. I mean, okay, look, it's weird to be in a fantasy game to be a duck. I get the wolf character because that's kind of a trope. The duck character, but that's a Swedish thing, man. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm always like amazed by that, because like it's not only like Dragon's Bane. There's a few games that it's like, where does that come from? Fuck. Because you mentioned like the Forbidden Land games coming into a box, and is that something that matters to you? Like, do you like the small format of the book, like digest size? Do you like when they come in books? Do you like when it's split in 3 books for game master, or a player and book, game master guide, bestiary? 2 books is fine. Maybe bestiary, put it with the game master thing. Do you have like preference on that?
Oh yeah, I think the player's book and the game master books need to be separate. I absolutely hate the idea. And let's use Free League, because Free League even did one step further, which really exemplifies this point.
Yeah.
You pick up the Mutant Year Zero book, and you've got this player section, and it even says player section. The next page says game master section. What player isn't going to read that?
Yeah.
Don't say no. I wouldn't. Yes, you would.
Yeah. I don't mind if it's in the same book, but like in like first half player, second half game master, but like one page to the next. Yeah, that's.
No, I don't like that at all, because the players are going to look at it. Now, most of the game mastery stuff I kind of don't care about. They're usually just other rules or ideas. But this is where Free League put the core adventure in there also. The whole point of the story. Now you can say, well, I don't play those stories, but again, it is part and parcel to what the world is about. You can absolutely have a million side quests and go do your own thing, but the world is about discovering if Eden is real, what Eden even happens to be, if it is real, and who's behind we'll say the message of Eden. And if the players are like, this isn't the book that I own, sweet. Now, as a game master, you're going to change stuff up anyway. And yes, the information given in there is pretty vague, so things can go in different directions. I get that, but I don't want any of that in it, because it absolutely has the spoilers. You know what let's say the idea behind Eden is after you read that, and no player isn't going to look at it. Don't I wouldn't. Yes, you would. Nobody here's a paladin. And so no, I don't like the game mastery stuff being mixed in with the player stuff. Also, I think that players, especially new players to the game, because we were talking about new players in the game, should have minimal information. Not because they should be kept in the dark, but because we don't want to give them information overload. Let me give you a perfect example, whether you like it or not, of how I ran Earth Dawn back in for my second Earth Dawn group. I went through and I wasted some government money and I photocopied lots of pages of the book. And everybody got the generic section on how to play the game. Only wizards and we'll say the magician classes got anything to do with spellcasting, thread magic, all the internals of magic, because the other characters wouldn't have access to 4th level anyway. So yeah, their talents are powered by magic, but that's not necessary when it comes to stuff. So none of them got it. Also, only the fighter types the warrior, the sword master, the sky raider, only they got the combat section and knew things like, oh, I can do aggressive attack, I can do giving ground, I can do these different combat maneuvers, because I just kind of felt the wizard wouldn't be taught that. And even if he was taught that, let's not overload the characters with this much of a book. So the wizardly characters got wizardly stuff, the fightery characters got fightery stuff, and then as they played, they talked about, it's like, dude, why aren't you giving ground? Giving what? Yeah, maybe back up a little bit while he's attacking you, slow down his attack, slow down his momentum. I can do that. Yeah. So all of a sudden it became a role-playing thing as well, where they're kind of learning the ins and outs of the rules of the game. So it wasn't information overload for them. So absolutely, I'm totally for the idea of limiting unnecessary information.
And do you think it's when you're new to a game, do you just go like pre-gen?
Depends. I like to let the players have a say in what they're playing, because I want especially when it's a new game and they're already going in a little skeptical, like I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not. I want them to play something toward what they want, but I always put the caveat out there, like, look, this game may not emulate that superpower that you're trying to do from the movie you saw, but let's see what it can do. So I do tend to want to say, let them make characters, but we make all our characters together. There's one thing is I learned long ago, and I enforce this no matter what game I'm running, is every player makes his character together with me there. And I don't allow secret characters. I don't, all that's in the past. And part of this, so the players can talk about, oh, dude, you're going to do that? I was going to do that. Well, what if I do it a little bit differently like this? Or wouldn't it be cool if we're like Korskin brothers? We're like the twins that do the same thing. Okay, you can do what you want. I'm not going to stop you, but it gives you the chance to talk about, like, oh, nobody here picked a healer? Crap, we need a healer. I like playing healers. I'll do it. What's the healer in this game? Oh, there are none? Was there a medic at least? Yes, there's a medic. All right, I want to be the medic then, so I can try to keep people alive. Whatever happens to be. I want you to fill the role that you want to fill. So I try not to do pre-gens unless it's a convention game.
Mm-hmm. I get. And I ask her, but we kind of got derailed. Like, what about like book format? Does it bother you when a game like try to do digest size? Do you prefer when they stick with the
Oh, I see. I skipped the digest size. I don't care so much anymore. I'm an 8. I mean, you can tell by my shelf. I prefer the 8.5 by 11s because they all fit there. But like Forbidden Lands here, this is digest size. Yeah. And no, I care more about the quality of how the book. So I was talking with Basic Expert about this yesterday. These books from Free League that are black and white, whether it's this digest size or the Vaesen full size one, are freaking amazing. These books here, I open. Oops, hold on a second. There we go. I hold them like 5 times, and it feels like they're starting to fall apart. They get the little creases in here. These full color ones just don't live up as well, and so that's an issue for me. That's not every color book ever. That's this one specifically from Free League that I actually don't like these as much. This book feels like I could throw this against a wall. The pages don't feel like they're popping out. The binding doesn't feel weird and so forth. There was another comment. So Justin says, generally don't like DMs that are scared of players knowing the rules. It's not that I'm not scared of the players knowing the rules. I'm talking about brand new players to the game. I'm not trying to give them information overload. So yep. That's what I'm talking about. Help ease them into the game. Some people you don't have to do that with. If you were to go out and buy the player's handbook, I wouldn't care, or the DMG. Again, the Free League issue with me is the fact that it had the adventure in it also. Yep. Because if it's got a stat for a robot that you might have to fight, I'll change the stat anyway. I don't care. Like, and I was actually talking to somebody like a week ago. It's like, if you change the stats of monsters, that's wrong. Monsters are supposed to be what they are. Like, screw you, buddy. I changed the stats of all my monsters.
Are you when you're a player? Do you if you are a player in your group, would you rather like the GM treat you like that, not give you all the rules, or you just say like, you know what, I'm gonna fucking read them? And do you want to?
I will at least skim them so I know what I'm getting into. Unless if I don't have the book, then I'll trust the game master. My style of play, and here's an example of this. I was recently in GM's Elko's Pathfinder 2 game. Yes, I played Pathfinder 2. But I really like him as a game master, and he lets me do what I'm about to say. Most people playing Pathfinder or Pathfinder 2 do this. All right, for my first action, I want to go to the door, and that should take me a few seconds. And then for my second action, I can open the door for my second action, right? Yeah, okay. So my second action, I open the door, and then for my reaction, if somebody stabs me, I want to block it and parry. And I think I can do this a reaction because I have this feat down here. That's how most of them talk.
Yeah.
Drives me batshit crazy. Me, I'm like, all right, what was my character's name? Frey. Frey is running to the door. I'm putting my shield up against it. I'm going to unlatch it, open it quickly, and if something comes through, I'm going to stab it. And then at some point he says, okay, stop. That would be your 3 actions. Okay, I don't count actions. I can't stand that nonsense. So as long as I'm allowed, so like used back to your question, if I don't fully know the rules of the game because I didn't have access to the book or the game master, we're all learning it together, whatever, I'm just going to do what my character would do in that moment until the game master tells me to stop and it's time to roll a die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in a way, if you're really like just role playing, the players don't really need to know the rules because the GM can just always tell him like, okay, now roll for that, and just tell me what your character does, where is it, like Sean always say.
Yeah, I mean, I never read the rules to the path. I looked at my character sheet. I saw what my feats, talents, skills, and so forth were. I had some pretty cool ones, like one that I'm actually kind of an asshole, so that makes it like -1 to like charm me or some mess like that because I'm like, screw you. But I mean, so I knew my character sheet absolutely. In fact, he's like, oh, yeah, I completely forgot to give you a sword. I was like, I know. But did you notice that my character was walking around looking for a sword? Because I didn't think that was an issue. I just was like, okay, I need to get a sword. Like, I didn't think you made a mistake or like, oh my God, I have to have a sword. It's just, I looked at my character sheet. The rest of it fell into place because GM's Alcove was a good enough game master to allow me just to describe my character's actions and then stop me when I need to make a roll or when my turn was over.
Yeah. And Sartnemia asked the quality of the Dark Souls books. It was, the pages were very dark and very glossy, make it very hard to read. And like, I don't know if you were there when I did the review. I was showing the picture in the camera. The image looked much better on camera because in person you can fucking see shit. The contrast is so bad. As far as the binding, I didn't pay too much attention to it, and now it's a bit far away. So I wasn't impressed. Just the glossiness of the page, like, and I would agree with Max. Like the Free League books, on the texture of the paper, the color of the paper, the inkage, they fucking got it right. Those like are so easy on the eyes to read. They're all black and white, but you're not making yourself blind reading those.
Yep.
You're getting like shit for being a Capellan and
well, no. That's fine. You know, they're just jealous of, you know, having, you know, 4,000 years of tradition behind us and actually having, you know, a worthy, honorable empire. But no, the Pathfinder 2 thing, that is funny. Yeah, I'm not going to bust GM's Elko's balls because I really like him. I think he not only has a good channel, but even though he runs really bad games and every time he talks about another game he's going to run, it's another bad game, he runs them well. So.
What other game that he talked about running?
He's going to
reading Castle and Crusade.
The Savage Worlds. Well, he's going to do an Alien one, which seems pretty cool. He keeps pronouncing Dragonbane by the dumb Swedish names. Like, dude, you're American. Speak English. like, I you know, and it's not him that I'm mad at. I have friends that do that too. Like, they think that they're erudite. Like, oh, I know the actual Chinese pronunciation of this game. Great, it says Dragonbane on the cover. That's what I'm going.
Like the Schwarzenegger.
What's that?
Schwarzenegger, the dark eyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in Germany, yeah. But we always called it the dark eye out there, so.
Yeah. One last thing about books that I want to ask you. Do you like when books try to be like, present themselves as they were like a diegetic, like it's a game book, but it's made to fit the aesthetic of the world, like if the book could exist in this world? Yeah.
Anything that you can do that enhances the immersion in the setting, whether it's through the art, whether it's through the color, whether it's through the design. Look, going back to White Wolf, I cannot find it. And if somebody else has it out there, I would love it. Back in the 90s, there was a Malkavian character sheet that somebody seriously just cut up and glued back together in all different orders. I thought it was hilarious. I think it was in the official publication. See, I don't get into the vampire game, but to me, it was a perfect aesthetic for the Malkavian because they're nuts, man. They're freaking crazy. So half the, part of the character sheet's over here, but he's finishing up the notes down there and so forth. So if somebody has that, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And I think it really did. It really got you into the mind, so to speak, of the Malkavian in that. So yeah, if the book can convey the setting, it's not a requirement, but it's definitely an advantage.
What about if you were to use, let's say, like you do like a historical medieval game and you decide to use either like art that is historical, that are like maybe like free art, like or like
Mhm.
algorithm art, or even like if you create new art, create it in the style of medieval drawing that might look at people like, oh, this drawing is not like the best we've seen, but it belongs to the time. Would that something like?
Are
Do you
you
think this
trying to
type
get
of
me to pull
items?
every book off my bookshelf?
Yeah,
Because
like
there's a game for that.
there's a few there that is left, but
For Golden Glory, which is the OSR version of second edition AD&D.
yeah,
This person got a lot of flack for, let's see if I can find some of the art in here. Here we go. For using, free stock. Is that two guys? Jesus.
yeah.
Oh, well, he's it's healing and so forth. Here we go. Here's another one. That's not stock art, but it's using stock art. He got flack for that because it's kind of just another naked dude. That's weird. I didn't realize how many naked dudes there were in this book. Maybe
art,
he should have got flack. Got another one there, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
I don't have, again, art doesn't do much for me when it comes to the game. It can enhance, but again, if I were to base every game off the art in the book, well, first of all, AD&D second edition for D&D has the best art. It sucks. No, you can't go wrong with Elmore, Caldwell, Easley, and Parkinson. You can't. And no, 5e anime art and 3e freaking Planescape art is not better. 2e, at least in the painting side of it, had much better art than any other edition. But it's not a requirement. I love the old first edition kind of, stick drawing, stick figure, pointy hat wizard. Some people say, well, Errol Otis. Well, Errol Otis is iconic, not good. Don't care that's going to make a lot of people angry. It's very iconic, and yeah, I'd love Errol Otis to paint a cover for me if I was doing something Dungeons and Dragon oriented, because of right there, you got the feel, you know what it is. But it's just, art has never been something that I've had to dwell on. And Bessem, I'm not into anime, and some of the art in there is a little weird, but it's got some amazing 2-page spread art in that book. My God, like the quality of that is fantastic. Well, I'm not into anime, so
Yeah, that's a weird thing because those kind of game, like, they don't like, because anime is not it's not really a genre. It's like a medium in a way.
Yeah.
Because like you're gonna have anime that's sci-fi, you're gonna have anime that's fantasy, you're gonna have anime that is quiz show apparently. So you have anime for very everything, and it's like those games that, like the Cortex Prime game does that and fucking drive me nuts. But I dislike about everything on that game, especially the.
I only know the webpage. I didn't know it had a book.
But they teach you the game like you're trying to make a TV show. Like oh, you're not doing like let's say you're doing like those like a X-File kind of game. Well, you're not doing like a X-File kind of game. You're doing an X-File TV show kind of game. Like, it's just the way they present the thing. Like, oh, you have scene, you have director, you're gonna have like a little of like a cinematic lingo. I fucking hate that. It adds this layer that like show me off, like disconnect me from the game. You know what I mean?
I use some of those terms in my game in order to evoke what needs to be evoked. I mean, I don't have like a game turn like, so for one scene you can do that. No, I don't do that. But I will use things
I use the term scene because like a scene is just like okay, now we're there,
like a situation. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it's like the camera cut, the like spotlights, like at some point, like, and they're word you can use, but at some point it's just like when it's too much and too written in the book and the way they explain the rules, like, it threw me off. And
I mean, sometimes people do that because that's what they want to convey. Somebody wants to say, I want my game to play like a TV show in scenes and 3 acts and 5 chat, whatever all those rules are that I forgot. Then do it. I'm not going to do that. I run my games as in, this is what's happening now. And look, I'm going to be on Gatekeepers tomorrow, and I'm stressed out over the fact that I've got to go there and talk about how I set up my campaigns. And I can answer that question in like 7 seconds, and I'm done, because the more I think about it, when I run my games, I do a bit of pre-work, but once it starts, I'm pretty much flexible week to week to week. I do just a couple of things. I didn't realize I was that fly by the seat of my pants, but I really am. Like, I don't do a lot of prep, sometimes because I was hungover, and other times because, I don't want to over prepare. I did that way in my early days. I'd over prepare, and then the players wouldn't go there, and I'd get angry because I put all that time in, and I try to force them to, like, no, I'm picking you up, and you're going in there. Like, no. I just okay, what's next? And I'll have to react to things. Some things I'm good at, some things I'm not. Don't ask me for NPC names because I never have them. Just say what the NPC name is.
That's the number thing in the fucking prep, like having a list of names that you can pick from.
Yeah,
like
I have a couple of books up there that are like roll d20, roll another d20. Okay, his name's Bob Simpson.
Yeah. I'll say Max would buy a Conan RPG book with a big skin cover written in blood. I would fucking buy that. That'd be like a collect. Well, if the price is reasonable, like collector edition, like
Only
like
if it's virgin blood.
Oh yeah, a virgin pig, much longer than I expected, to be honest.
Oh come on, I'm on the show. You can't say that. You knew it was gonna go long if I'm. I know I pulled it away from like what to do at the beginning, so hopefully we got that done, like how to bring people into the game.
Yeah, no, it's just like no, but it's interesting because I want to talk about like learning new games, stuff like that, but then like learning new game for somebody new as well, like that's an interesting part of it too, So
I think the one thing I didn't say that I think would be relevant to that conversation is one of the things I just remember us doing, especially when I was in the Air Force and we lived in the dorms, is somebody like Garthon would come over and be like, "Hey, I got this game I want to try," and of course, there's always something weird like feng shui or Tales from the Vagabond or something like that. So I mean, all right, but yeah, he'd come over and we'd look it over and he'd be like, "Okay, this looks neat or that looks neat or something like that." I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll give that a try. I mean, that's how Heathen Dog got me into his mage game. We just started talking about it. He'd already been running it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm convinced I could try that game. It's just talk with your friends, and if you have a passion for it. The reason I got people to play Earthdawn at literally every place I've ever been, where I tried to run it, is because I had a lot of passion for it. And people were like, okay, you know what? We got to give this guy a chance at some point. I didn't push people out. I didn't stop somebody else from DMing. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not poaching players. But people are like, man, you talk about this thing all the time and you say it with this happiness and this passion. We got to try it. So if you're passionate, you're happy about the game that you're playing, that will pass off to other people and it will make them more apt to want to try it. Now, some people are just obstinate. No, I don't do anything other than this. Well, that's that person's problem. The best thing to do then, and you're going to be mad at me for this, ending the stream like this, but exclude them. Let everybody else have fun except for that person.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like at some point, if everybody want to do something, and like I said that before as well, like the people itself shouldn't be mad. Like you don't want to play that, that's all right. We're not gonna force you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
come join us back in the next game. And sometimes people are afraid to exclude people, but sometimes somebody say like it's gonna be better for him to be excluded than to be included into something he doesn't want to be part of. Then sometimes just I'm gonna do something else. Oh, you're gonna
perfect example for me is Pathfinder. Just if you're gonna play a Pathfinder game, I mean, again, I know I'm doing the Pathfinder 2 thing. It's a little different, but still, if you're gonna do a D&D 3X or a Pathfinder game, just don't even ask. Just say, hey, Max, you don't have to be here next Saturday or for the next Saturday in perpetuity because we're gonna be playing Pathfinder. I'd be like, that's cool.
Yeah. Then you're gonna find another group or do something else with your time. Just like you don't have to. You're not gonna be there all miserable all the time. That's all right too. But also, in most system, you can try to find your own fun too. You can make your own fun. You can like sometimes take on your. You have to be flexible.
Sorry, I gotta say, don't play toilet paper. See, that doesn't ring. That doesn't come.
Yeah. In the end, I want to thank you for joining me again. Like, happy birthday once again. And there's few announcements I want to make because I'm starting a new show this Thursday. And I'm gonna start a show with Tyler. His YouTube channel is Flame Zombie. If you want to check out who he is, I think he's a guy that's insightful. He's fairly new in YouTube, but I think he got a good idea. He seemed to have a good head on his shoulder. The new show we're starting is gonna be I need to get this time right. I keep getting it wrong. It's gonna be 2000 EDT, so 8 p.m. Eastern time for American, on this channel here. It's gonna be called Dice and Design. We're gonna try to do a little bit more of a deep dive in mechanics, and sometimes also like GM advice, stuff like that, but go a little deeper than just like, oh, I like that, I don't like that, and stuff like that. Just try to consider like whether the, like, you know, if we want to talk about dice mechanic, maybe we're going to go on the statistical side. This first topic we're going to, because it's kind of like the pilot episode, you could call, we're going to talk about critical hits and critical fumble. You know, are they needed in the game? Do they really bring something? Can we do without? Or are they more butter than their worth? You know, we're going to try to deep dive a little bit more in that. So join us then. It's going to be on Thursday at 2000 EDT, so 8 p.m. Eastern time for American. I'm probably not gonna stream on Thursday at noon because I'm gonna have this stream instead. Also, to be fair, it's the end of the season, so the end of the summer, and I got a lot on my plate to do. So I need some time during the day to work outside. I want to wrap this house before the winter, and so I can sell it and move away, do something else. Anyway, but I'm probably gonna stream tomorrow night for some more Warband and chat. So join me then as well. It's usually around like 9:30 Eastern, where we can just like talk about all kind of. That's the stream. If you want to ask me questions that are off topic of role playing game, that's where to come for. If you want a weird take about a different topic. Anyway, so those. Oh, and tomorrow night. No, actually tonight I'm gonna be on the channel talking about game at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time again.
Oh Jesus, two people with accents?
Yeah, exactly. With Abraham, we're gonna be talking about game. So join us then as well. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be like, Tyler is gonna be there as well. So if you know who the guy is, he's gonna be there. Rick from 28mm RPG, and maybe some other people. And I forgot what we talked about. I need to check. Is it armor? No, I think we talked about the armor last time. Anyway, come, it's gonna be fun. You know, it's always like oh yeah, it's character progression and advancement. There you go. That's what we're gonna talk about. So that's actually a very good topic. Thank you again, Max, for joining me. Sorry for like having you set through to all those announcements. I just like reorganizing my channel a bit. So I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for everybody that joined in chat. Thank you for everybody that watched later on, and have a good day. Take care.